Hello my friends, and a very warm welcome back to my painting channel. And in this video we're going to be making a really cool piece of scatter terrain. Now we're going to use a few techniques and a few bits that we've used in the previous scatter terrain video that I've made, but in this video we're going to make a cool looking Celtic Stone Circle base. So we're just going to use a small bit of a kind of plastic round. This is a protective layer from a CD case that I used to use with work. So these would normally be just things that would be thrown out. So instead of letting these getting thrown out, we're going to use these to create a cool bit of scenery for our games. So that's all I'm using is a small round bit of plastic and a bit of packing foam, so just some normal polystyrene. And then I'm just going to use a ruler just to mark out a 1.5 centimeter gap just across the sides. And we're going to do this down both sides, and we're going to do this 1.5 centimeter and create these sort of rock or kind of just cut in this to shape, so that it gives us an area that we can build this cool looking sort of stone circle, or these cool sort of standing stones from. So that's all I'm doing is just marking out the width and then just creating a little line just so that it gives us an idea. It's a good way to go, just by making sure that we kind of get a bit more of a pattern or a plan or an idea as to what we are creating, and it gives us a bit more of a uniformed option as well, because all of the rocks and things will be of the same sort of size, but that doesn't matter hugely, because we are going to cut them down a bit and we're going to kind of create a little bit more of a organic look to them. So don't worry too much if it's not precise or not accurate or anything like that. This is just how I've worked this particular project. So once we've marked them all down, I'm just going to use a hot wire cutter, which is something that is definitely worth using in a ventilated area, because this does give off a lot of fumes. So do be careful when using a hot wire cutter. As you can see, there's a lot of fumes and chemicals coming off as I cut through this. So just make sure that you do this in a well ventilated area, preferably sort of outside or somewhere where you've got a mask on or something like that. And then that's all I'm going to do is just gently cut through these, so that it gives us a few different rocks and a few different sort of parts to build up from, and a good starting point. And there you go, you can see they're all just cut out and ready to go. And that's all I'm going to do then is, using the hot wire cutter, I'm just going to cut down across in random patterns, especially around the corners, because we're going to kind of shave these corners right down using these sort of random patterns and things like that, just to kind of build this almost organic kind of worn down sort of rocky kind of feel. But we're going to cover all these over and paint them up later, and they're going to look really, really cool. But this is just how we prepare these kinds of rocks, these kinds of old-fashioned kind of worn out layered sort of stone, if you like, this kind of fantasy kind of stone. And as you can see, I'm just kind of moving the polystyrene around a little, just to kind of create different kinds of layers and textures and sort of creases and folds and things like that in the rocks, because we don't want it all to be flat or straight or anything like that. We want these to be really sort of worn and old and kind of, as I say, really sort of fantasy, like they look like fantasy or magical stones and things like that. So as you can see, using the hot wire cutter, this just glides straight through polystyrene. This is really, really good to just create shapes with and things like that, as you can see. And there we go, we're kind of giving ourselves a little bit more of an organic kind of look now, kind of giving ourselves a little bit more of a different kind of feel and look to the rocks. Just like that. And then you can go back in and kind of create different shapes and things like that, you know, cut out other extra bits at more extreme sort of angles, you know, straight down the rocks and things like that. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to use a few cocktail sticks, and we're just going to place the cocktail sticks through the middle of our rocks, as you can see. Just placing straight through the middle, and then just placing the other one just across the top here, being careful. And there we go, that's the plan. You can see now already we're starting to create the idea or the illusion that these rocks are going to be stood up, you know, sort of on top of each other in this sort of cool way. So that's all I'm doing with this, is just placing these cocktail sticks into the rocks. And as you can see, I'm twisting the cocktail stick as it goes in, because it creates a lot less resistance. Otherwise, if you just push the cocktail stick straight through, it can create a little bit of a build-up inside of the polystyrene. So twisting it creates less resistance. And there we go, you should have something that comes out or looks a little bit like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move on and use a little bit of Mod Podge. And Mod Podge is a really cool sort of matte style glue, and I'm going to use this just in between all of those sort of rocky areas. This is a very messy sort of base to make, so I do apologize with all of the mess and the state of everything, but it's also good fun to get messy as well. So just going to place loads of this sort of Mod Podge around, and we're going to stick those areas together. Going to place a little bit of Mod Podge just across the top where some of the bits might have, some of the sticks might have stuck through and poked through. And then we're going to place a nice big chunk just across the bottom, and then really try to place and press that down into place. Once we've kind of got an idea as to where that's going to sit, then I'm also going to add a few bits more of Mod Podge just around the edges. There we go, just like so, just to kind of seal everything together. And then I will place something just a little bit with a little bit of weight on top, just to hold it down while it dries. And once that's done, then we're going to use a Vallejo texture earth color. Now, with this, you can use any one you like. I'm using desert sand for this one, but it doesn't matter about the color because we're going to paint and change all of the color later anyway. I'm just using this one because I've got a ton of this one, and I don't actually use it for desert. So this is just my go-to at the minute, just to create this illusion of mud and earth and all these sorts of things. And that's all I'm doing, is just using my basing brush. As you can see, I'm just dabbing my brush around, so this creates an sort of an irregular, more natural sort of crazy pattern. This just sort of dots the pattern all around. But what I'm also doing is I'm placing this also across all of those rocks, just like so. And I'm just dabbing this across all of those rocks. And the reason being is the textured sort of paints have these sort of sandy, gritty, grainy pigments and textures and things like that in there. So as we place this onto the rocks, this is going to create a really cool looking sandy kind of gritty effect onto the rocks as well. So this is going to make the rocks look a lot more organic. This is going to make them look a lot more organic and a lot more real and natural than what they would if they were just flat polystyrene. Now once that's done and everything's dry, you should have something that looks like this. I'm then going to use an ash grey Army Painter color primer just to spray over the whole of the model, and then once that's done, it should look a little like this. Now what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to use one of our channel favorites, using the Panzer Aces Dark Rust 302 paint, and this is just a very, very dark brown paint. So you can use any dark brown paint that you like, but if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of this particular paint. This is a really good base color. It's a really good dark paint that gives us a good opportunity to build up and highlight from this really good dark base. And that's all I'm going to do, is just paint this all across the area that I want to be muddy and dirty, and just cover all of the base layer just like so. So just trying to make sure that I get a nice thick even coat all the way across, because I don't want this to be too thin on the base with it not needing to worry too much about losing details or anything like that. And here we go, just painting all around the rocks and things, just trying to make sure that I get a good even coverage right across the base, as I say. So it's a really cool, interesting little project, something that's really fun and really different, and something that I'm hopefully going to be able to use with some of the little board games and things that we're going to hopefully get some of the sort of let's plays and things like that going in the new year as well. So once that's done, we're going to use a blue-grey pale, again another channel favourite. This is a great sort of grey colour. It has a blue sort of greyish tinge to it, and then I'm just going to paint all across all of those rocks. And the only reason why I'm painting this over the top is just in case there's any areas that my primer spray hasn't quite caught a hold of, and I'm just making sure that all of this is just nice and flat and grey, so then we can build up and work from there. So as you can see, just trying to put as much of this watered down and just get this in all of those cracks, and you can really now see where all of that texture is starting to make the rocks look a lot more organic. As I was saying earlier, instead of them looking flat and more like polystyrene, we've got this sort of gritty, rough, sort of grainy kind of effect on these rocks in such a quick and simple and easy way, and it looks fantastic. Nice and simple. Really cool way of painting rocks. Now, what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to use Citadel paints, and we're going to use a bunch of different shades, because what we're going to try to do is we're just going to place loads of different shades onto the rocks, like I've done previously when I did my Warcry set. That's all I'm going to do, is just use about 6 or 7 different colours. As you can see here, we've got the Fungan Orange, Biltan Green, Null Noil, Druki Violet, Dragonov Nightshade, and the Caribou Crimson. And we're just going to mix and match. So we're just going to place just chunks of these colours. Now, I've sped this up quite a lot just to kind of give you an idea as to how I'm doing this, because I'm pretty much just going to place loads and loads of random sort of patterns and random colors and things like that all over these rocks. And the reason why I've sped this up is because if you want to have a look at a more detailed version of how I've done this, then I would highly recommend that you check out my Warcry scenery video, because this goes into detail as to how much I've done or how well I've done this kind of technique. And it looks fantastic for fantasy kind of things, and for really old-fashioned, ancient-looking stone. It looks fantastic because you get all of these different sort of underlying tones and colours from your rocks. I mean, you could just, if you wanted to, which I have done in the past, you could just place grey onto the model, cover it in black, and then dry brush it back up grey. That's fine. That works absolutely fine. However, by adding all of these different colours, you do get this sort of more, I don't want to say organic or anything like that. You kind of get this more depth and more colour, more vibrance and things like that out of the model. And you'll see that when it's all done, you'll kind of see exactly what I'm kind of explaining. So as you can see by me just painting the green and the orange, you can see just how much this is sort of just me slapping loads of different colours and just different bits all over the base, just like so. Just trying to cover this in all different areas. And I'm not worried about whether I get this on the base or anything like that, because we're going to cover that in a different colour anyway. So don't worry, go nuts. Get as messy as you want, have as much fun as you want, go crazy with it. And then the more crazy that you go, by the time you get to the end of this and by the time you get to the end of your project, it's going to look really cool. And you're going to have a lot of fun doing it as well, which is going to make it a lot more interesting and a lot more personal to you. So I mean, if you have a lot of fun making it and you have a real good go at it, later when you see it on the board, it's going to have that kind of emotional connection to it where you've really enjoyed building it and it looks the part as well. So go for it, have fun, go as crazy as you like, get as messy as you like. That's all part of the fun of painting. You don't want to paint just to be clean, you want to paint to get covered and really have a good time. So as you can see, just placing all those different colours. The Dragonov Nightshade now is one of the final stages, and you can see this cool sort of blue texture, this cool sort of blue tone that you can get out of this. And I mean, you could get creative with this as well. You know, you could paint the greens and oranges more towards the top, the blues and purples and things on the underneath, kind of control where the lighting and where the warm tones and the cool tones are and things like that. You can go crazy, you can go as mad as you want. But yeah, I thought I'd speed this right up and just show me painting loads and loads of different colours onto this. And you can see how messy it is and how fun it is. And it doesn't matter because it's all part and parcel of painting. Once all of the stone is done, we're then going to use the Null Oil. So I'm going to use that black wash. And I'm just going to cover the black all across the base then, across that mud. Now you could use a dark brown if you wanted to. You could use something like a sort of the Agrax Earthshade, things like that instead. If you wanted to, you could use like a dark sort of brown sepia tone from Vallejo if you wanted to. That's absolutely fine, that's completely up to you. I've just gone with the black here for now, and then I'm going to build up all of those tones from there. Now once everything is dry, you can really see all of those colours are starting to stand out and stick out. So what we're going to start to do now is dry brush our colours back in. So for this stage and for the next stage of this project, everything is going to be dry brushed. So we're going to start by dry brushing all of the brown. So we're going to get this warmer, more sort of earthy tones back through. So we've got this dark brown, and then we've got this black sort of wash. But then as we start to dry brush this, you're going to start to get this more earthy browns, more orangey browns, a little bit more of these orange tones, and a little bit more of this colour and vibrance coming back through, bringing a little bit more life to the base and a little bit more life and colour back into what we've washed and what we've sort of shaded down. And as you can see, this sort of mid-tone, this earthy brown tone is really creating this really great sort of step up. It's giving us a real contrast and this real nice colour boost as well. And then because we've used a black shade on the base, you can really see those lighter and darker tones on that base in such a simple way of doing things. So once we've got that and our base is dry and you can see now the tones on the base, we're going to use a Sombra Grey, which is a bluish grey. This does have a heavy sort of blue kind of pigment to it, and we're going to really dry brush back over all of those areas. Now this might seem a little counterproductive after all of the work we've done with the wash, but trust me, this is going to look really cool. Because because we're going to get these sort of blue tone sort of colours from dry brushing, but we're also going to get these other sort of colours and tones and sort of textures and things showing through underneath, and that's what's really going to create that character and texture through this little model. It's really cool to think that we can make these things out of recycled materials, things that you would normally just throw away. So once we've used that Sombra Grey, we're going to use the Blue Grey Pale again. This is a nice light grey highlight, and you can really see the highlight now starting to take effect, and you can really see how that is affecting the model. And yeah, there we go, just kind of showing off all of those extreme sort of highlights. Don't worry too much about those little bits of white that we may have missed. We've tried to cover over as much as we possibly can, but sometimes you do miss those little white blobs with the polystyrene. But don't worry, because we're going to weather it all up and create a really cool looking sort of weathered effect as well to make it look a lot more ancient. And there we go, you could just see the dry brushing working. But yeah, as I say, it's really cool to be able to make such interesting, characterful sort of terrain pieces just out of recycled materials, out of things that you would normally just throw away, things that you wouldn't consider as useful. And then we can make some really cool, interesting things like this. So from there, what I'm going to do then, I'm just going to use a bit of super glue, and we're going to start to use our basing materials. So first things first, I'm using some of the sort of basing tufts. So these aren't like grass tufts, these are, this is from Jarvis. So these are Jarvis sort of basing bushes. These are bushes and basing bushes that you would normally get for like model railway sets. And these are pretty much just big, thick chunks of foam. So these are very, very big, foamy kind of bits. So when you put the super glue down, the foam absorbs that super glue, creating a really, really strong texture, which then absorbs and makes the foam bits really, really stick down to the base and really sort of solidify, which allows them to create a solid bond to the base, which is great. And we're going to start by placing a few of these big, chunky sort of bushes and things like that around, because as we then add our grass tufts and our grass texture, these bits are also going to stand out and look quite overgrown, like hedges and things like that. It's going to look fantastic. So as you can see, I'm just putting blobs of super glue down, and then I'm pressing these sort of foam tufts down just so that they absorb that super glue in and create a really good solid bond and a really good solid seal, as you can see. And I'm just placing them in random places where I think it would look cool to have some little tufts and little bushes and things like that. And you can go as crazy as you like and place as many as you like, wherever you like, and you can really see they start to solidify under that super glue already. So yeah, just placing a few of these in random bits, trying to stick some of them close to the rocky bits so that it looks like the bushes and the hedges are using the rocks to sort of grow up and things like that as well. And there we go, just giving an idea as to where and how we place in them. So like I say, just all in random bits. You could break these down into smaller bits, which is what I think is fantastic with these Jarvis things. They come in sort of really big chunks, but you can also break them up into smaller bits, which creates a really good, interesting sort of way of doing like your bases and things like that. There we go, just a big chunk of super glue, and then we're just going to press him down and squash him in. Kind of made up my own word there, squodge. We're going to squodge him in there. Yeah, so once that's done, we're going back to the Mod Podge. So as we've used Mod Podge earlier, we're going to use Mod Podge again now, and that's all we're going to do is we're going to use a bit of sort of gaming tufts and gaming grass. So if you've had, or if you've used any sort of gaming grass before, I use this one from World War Gaming, and that's all I'm doing is just placing nice big chunks of Mod Podge onto the base. So a big chunk of Mod Podge, and this one now you can use your paintbrush actually to control where you want these to go. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to place this in a sort of pattern around where I want the grass to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to create corners essentially, although it's a round base. Bear with me, it will make sense, I promise. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to put all of our Mod Podge between the sort of areas where the rocks would be that people wouldn't be walking through. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the Mod Podge all around, but we're going to leave a few tracks where we would kind of create the illusion that people would be walking through the base. Okay, so we're going to create like a three-way path almost, and that's going to give us the opportunity to create this really cool looking base that it looks like people walk through underneath the rocks, but the grass is overgrown in the areas that people don't normally walk across. And that's why we wanted that earthy sort of vibrant brown tones out of the flooring and the earth tone earlier, is because we kind of want it to look like well trodden, well worked earth tones and things like that. And that's all I'm doing now, is just picking up the grass. I'm running this between my finger and my thumb, and I'm just rolling my finger and thumb together just so that it drops all of those little bits of grass and all those little grassy bits in random patterns just across where the glue is, where the Mod Podge is. Now, I love using Mod Podge for basing things like this because it's matte and it dries down matte. It does, after a day or two, all of those colours and all of those matte effects really do dry down together in a really, really great way. It's a fantastic product for this sort of thing. Something to bear in mind as well, I do apologise about the camera. I have no idea why my camera has gone crazy overexposed on this particular part. I don't know why it's done this, but it doesn't matter. It's not all the way through the video, and you can still see what I'm getting at as well. So as I said, between my finger and thumb, just using a little rolling motion, just like so, creating this random pattern for the grass. And as you can see now, what I meant by those corners is we're just kind of creating that illusion of that cross pathway through the middle of the base, just like so. And there we go, just tap in the excess back into the box, because it's always good to keep as much grass tufts as you can. You don't want to lose your grass tufts for just all over the place. Try to recycle as much as we can. And there we go, I'm just going to place a quick random pattern in the middle. If you watched my Celtic how to paint woad, there's a similar sort of pattern there somewhere as to some of the woad as well. And then I'm just going to pat the excess off, and there we go. See, it's kind of creating, as I said, that illusion that we've got pathways walking through underneath those stones and creating like little paths and things like that. Now I also have this really cool meadow flock from the hobby round, and I have the AK Interactive moss as well. And as you can see on the stones where I've already started, just again using that Mod Podge, I'm just going to use that dab in motion once more, and we're just going to place just a few of these random little bits. Same sort of thing, finger and thumb, just rolling my finger and thumb together just so that it means that all of those little bits, all of those little chunks and things just drop off onto the glue in a random pattern, just like so. And just using a little bit of both, as you can see. I'm patting them down as we go. That's creating a really cool mossy kind of effect. It looks really good. It's really simple to do, and it really kind of brings the ancient sort of feel to life. And again, on the rocks, you can really see the sort of areas on the rocks now where the all of those sort of colours, some of the orange, some of the purple, some of the blues are showing through as well, and it's creating that really cool effect. Now I'm just going to whip out my big tub of tufts once again, and I'm just going to get all of my different tufts out, because I bought this big tub of tufts on Amazon. It was like £15, and it comes with like something like 100 different tufts in here of all different colours and kinds. Fantastic value, brilliant little box. I will be getting more once I run out. And that's all I'm going to do, is just pick out a few different colours, a few different grass tufts and a few flowers, and then we're just going to place those randomly all over the place just to kind of create a really cool looking overgrown effect. So as you can see, we've got all of the grass, we've got our hobby round tufts, we've got those big sort of bush hedge type of tufts from the Jarvis to begin with, and now we're just placing some of those grass tufts in as well. So some of the grass tufts add to that vegetation and add to that overgrown look, but ideally we do want some colour as well, and this is why I've got a few of my colourful sort of flower tufts out as well, because I will break up all of that green and give us a little bit of something to look at too. Just like so. Now don't forget as well, you can add some of those grass tufts across the top, across some of those rocks, and add to that overgrown style, just like that. And there we go, we've got one of our flowers here just going in just at the back here, And there you go, look at how much that breaks up all of that greenery. Just by adding a little bit of colour, it drags and tears your eye across so that you look at all of these different tones, textures, colours, flowers. There's so much to see. It's such an amazing little project, and such a fun project as well. Like I say, it's crazy to think that this is all materials that you'd throw into the bin. This is all materials you just discard on a daily basis, and yet look at how cool and how scenic and thematic this base actually is. Very, very cool, very easy to make. Yeah, really, really good fun, really, really good fun project. So I really enjoy making these little bits of scenery, and as I said, hopefully I'll be able to use these because I want to play a few sort of games on camera in the future. So hopefully in the new year this is something that we'll be looking at doing on the channel. But you'll have to let me know in the comments if you enjoy this sort of project, if you enjoy me making scenery, if you like seeing the sort of stages that go to it, and if whether or not this is something that you learn from and something that you would use or do yourself. Is this something that you enjoy to see? I know I really enjoy making these, and you can see why. They look really cool. So all in all, when everything is done, it should look something a little bit like this. We've got our Celtic warriors here just fighting around our ancient stone circle, and it looks really, really cool. I love it. Like I say, I love making these things, and I will always make more as long as you guys would like to see more. So in the comment section, please let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought of my process, and if you think it has turned out well, if this is a good use of recycled materials, and give me a thumbs up. And as always, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in, for watching, just for being awesome. I really appreciate everything that you guys do on the channel. Thank you so much. Take care, and I will see you guys on the next one.